Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.
Alright, guys, so today we're going to talk about practical and statistical significance in data analysis. So, my name is Eric Wang.
I'm Owen Carlson.
And yeah, so this is the agenda for today. So, we start with talking about statistical significance, and then we elaborate on practical significance, and then we end with applications for you guys, the marketers.
Right, so I'll start out and talk a little bit about statistical significance first. So this is basically how you support or not support the alternative hypothesis in a test mathematically. So, and it also implies that you did this without sampling error, and this is done through something like a hypothesis test, such as a t-test. And there are some errors that we can talk about later, but let's go to an example first. So we've heard about this before. Are ACT scores of higher income families statistically different from those with lower income? And how would you go about running this test? So let's say the average ACT score was a 22. And so what you would do is you would set up a null hypothesis saying that the mean is still 22 for high income students. And your alternative hypothesis would be that the mean is not 22 for high income students and in fact be higher. So what you would do is you would run your t-test or whatever you do, like a p-test, and you would find that something that supports the alternative hypothesis, such as a very low p. Now, this is what determines statistical significance. There are a few biases when it comes to statistical significance, however, such as the larger your sample size, the easier it is to achieve statistical significance, and the lower the variability, the easier it is to achieve statistical significance. So if you have a very large homogeneous group, you might want to look out in the studies that you're going forward in. Next, we'll move on to practical significance.
Alright, so practical significance is pretty much looking at the difference in a practical sense. So we look at two different data points, and we pretty much just use common sense to determine whether it is significant or not. So of course there are pros and cons to this. The pros are that it's very fast and very easy, and then the cons to this are the con to this would be it's not very accurate. So here's an example. The IQs of men and women may be statistically different, but only by 1 or 2 points. This likely isn't enough to mean anything. So if we see that the average man IQ score is 100 and the average woman IQ score is 101, it's only off by 1 point. And even though we have a very large sample size, it doesn't mean that that is significant. Sorry.
Right, so based on that case, we have a couple implications for marketers in general. So one, marketers have to know their statistics, but they also need to know how to apply them and what to use and which tools and in which scenarios they want to use this particular statistic methods that they are going for. And number two, they need to know when using these methods which help marketers interpret the data. It helps them find what information is actually important to them, not just, you get all this data and you're just looking at the math like, okay, there's a difference here, but they need to use these methods to know what's important actually to the customer and to the bottom line. So with that, we ask you guys if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us. We've got a lot of time leading up to the test, so let us know.